Remember the time you took apart your parents' alarm clock just to see how it worked? It wasn't just a mischievous phase. It was actually a high-level neurological training session for your future. The way you tracked insects or questioned everything as a child predicted your ability to survive adult chaos today. Welcome back to Sigma Intelligence. When we observe a child dismantling a toy, tracking a beetle through the dirt, or relentlessly asking, "Why?" we tend to dismiss it as aimless play or simple hyperactivity. But behavioral psychology and neurology reveal that these forgotten impulses are something far more profound. They are the genesis of cognitive fortitude. The modern adult world is characterized by volatility, unexpected crises, and rapid shifts that demand immediate adaptation. When faced with a career collapse, a personal loss, or systemic upheaval, some individuals paralyze, while others pivot with remarkable fluidity. The differentiator isn't raw intellect or emotional suppression. The secret predictor of adult mental resilience is hidden in your childhood sandbox. Today, we are breaking down the neurological blueprint of investigative play, how childhood questioning constructs a permanent psychological buffer, and why your inner child's curiosity is the ultimate insurance policy against adult burnout. To understand how a child's curiosity transforms into an adult psychological armor, we must first reframe what play actually is. Dismantling a clock, mapping the patterns of ants, or building and destroying blocks isn't random distraction. In cognitive science, this is recognized as early-stage, empirical hypothesis testing. When a child interacts with an object to see how it breaks or functions, they are executing a sophisticated loop: variable isolation, trial, failure, and recalibration. Every time a child successfully solves a physical or logical puzzle, like figure out exactly which gear turns the watch hand, their brain fires a precise hit of dopamine. This is where the neurological hardwiring begins. The brain doesn't just register pleasure. It creates a structural association between problem solving and reward. When curiosity is repeatedly exercised, it fundamentally reshapes the physical architecture of the developing brain. It teaches the young nervous system that the unknown is not an existential threat to flee from, but a matrix of variables waiting to be decoded. This structural development becomes highly evident when we look at recent 2026 neuroplasticity data. Neurologists tracking cognitive development have found that childhood questioning loops, the habit of constantly asking why and seeking deeper layers of context, create significantly denser neural pathways and greater synaptic connectivity in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the command center for executive function, emotional regulation, and cognitive flexibility. When we contrast the brain of a highly curious child with a child raised in a hyper-rigid, strictly structured environment where questioning was discouraged, the structural differences are stark. A brain wired by early curiosity processes, novelty, sudden changes in environment or unexpected data, without instantly triggering a survival-driven fear response. Because the curious brain spent years practicing how to handle new information during play, it treats an unpredictable scenario as a puzzle rather than an attack. This structural agility translates directly into the specific cognitive tools needed to process the complex, multi-layered stressors of modern adult life without defaulting to panic. So how does the impulse to track a beetle translate into surviving an adult crisis? It manifests as a psychological mechanism we call the investigative buffer. When a major disruption occurs, such as a sudden corporate restructuring or a profound personal upheaval, the average human response is to seek immediate safety, often reverting to defensive, rigid behaviors. But an adult with deep roots in childhood curiosity activates their investigative training. They don't view the chaos as an indictment of their safety. They view it as a fresh data set. This psychological buffer completely changes the internal narrative. The rigid mind asks, "Why is this happening to me? How do I make it stop?" The inquisitive mind asks, "What are the new rules of this environment?" What variables can I control? This shift in perspective protects an individual from emotional burnout. Stagnation occurs when a person spends all their cognitive energy resisting a new reality. The curious mind skips the resistance phase entirely and moves straight into analysis, pivoting effortlessly because it treats a career crisis as just another complex clock to be taken apart and understood. Stop for a moment and look back at your own life. Think about the most chaotic, stressful event you survived as an adult. When everything was falling apart, did you survive by desperately clinging to the old rules that no longer worked? Or did you survive because a small, observant part of your mind stepped back, started asking questions, and found a completely unconventional way out? That quiet, observant voice isn't a new adult skill. That is the exact same voice that wanted to know what was inside the clock. When an adult lacks these early curiosity roots, they fall into what psychologists call the rigidity risk. When faced with high-stakes shifts, a rigid mind experiences a demand for immediate, cognitive closure, the desperate psychological need for an absolute, definite answer to eliminate ambiguity. The need for immediate cognitive closure forces people to make panicked, short-sighted decisions during a crisis, or worse, completely paralyze. They cling to outdated solutions because the alternative, sitting with an unsolved problem, creates intolerable anxiety. The habit of investigative play acts as an ongoing antidote to cognitive closure. It allows an adult to remain comfortable with ambiguity. They can tolerate the discomfort of not knowing the final answer yet, because their brain remembers that the process of exploration eventually yields a solution. This prevents mental paralysis, allowing them to keep testing new strategies, exploring secondary career paths, or learning new systems during global or personal instability. Curiosity isn't just a personality trait, it is a mechanism for long-term psychological endurance. Every past moment of seemingly aimless childhood wandering, every broken toy, and every annoying question you asked as a child was not a waste of time. It was the essential training ground for the resilient person you are today. Your inner child's forgotten impulses built the psychological armor you are right now. If you feel like you've lost that edge, remember that neuroplasticity does not expire. You can actively re-engage your investigative buffer at any age. Start small. Deliberately introduce novelty into your routine. Dismantle a complex problem at work like a puzzle rather than a threat, and cultivate the habit of asking, why, before you allow your brain to default to fear. The fortress of adult resilience is built on the foundation of childhood wonder. Protect the query. If this structural breakdown altered how you look at your past and your resilience, hit that like button and subscribe to Sigma Intelligence. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What was the most complex thing you dismantled or questioned as a child? Let's analyze it together. See you in the next video.